Virtual golf, a part of the game that's growing rapidly, being able to play the game any time of the day, any time of the year, indoors. The realism on this stuff's getting crazy. But we're not here today to talk about the high-end stuff, where you're actually hitting a ball into a screen. We're talking about opening up access to being able to play the game without physically hitting a ball. Begs a lot of questions, a lot of doubts. For me, how accurate is it? How much fun is it? And will it actually improve your ability to play the game in real life? We're talking about virtual reality golf. Yeah, played without hitting a golf shot, swinging a club, modified, indoors with a VR headset on. My big goals with this are to figure out A, how accurate is it compared to like playing in TrackMan? Is it something that actually potentially will not only just be entertainment, but will it actually improve your golf game? The three other questions I'm going to address from what I've seen on forums and stuff about the DeadEye. I'm obviously going to look at the quality of the product itself. They've got this whole thing they got with weights to try and make the club feel the same. I've got a swing weight machine, table balancer. So I'll actually get exactly the same swing weight in this as, say, my 7-iron, and see how it feels to swing. And then there's some other little bits and pieces apparently with the controller and the Quest 3 and bits and pieces that need to be addressed. So I'm going to have a go doing all these over the next few days. I'm going to share the journey with you guys. And you can see if virtual golf is for you. Let's dive on in and let's talk about the product itself, the DeadEye Elite VR tool. Now, this is actually my second time recording this particular part. The first time I did it, I was looking at it purely from a perspective of, is this a golf club? How does it feel exactly compared to a golf club? The swing weight thing they talk about, how does it actually match up in relationship to a golf club? Now, the reason I'm redoing this part is after I did it, and I'll get to what I learned in that first brutal look at it, this compared to an actual 7-iron or 6-iron or anything. I went ahead and watched a bunch of older reviews of when this first came out, this particular unit, what's changed about it. And then also I had a bit of an experience of actually playing Golf Plus with this unit and had a feel of what my perceptions are and reality is in a VR space. And I definitely have a series of pros and cons that I feel about this and how much those actually matter. And also you see I've got a bit of lead tape foreshadowing what I'm about to talk about. Now, number one, the product itself. When I watched some of the earlier videos, I could see that they used to have a little screw-on part in here that got wobbly or something. It's obviously gone. So the shaft itself looks like filament wound graphite, and it's very rigid because they're using the stiffest part of a shaft, and that's perfectly fine. The grip itself, they're using kind of a knockoff version of a Golf Pride alignment, which is extremely helpful when you are in VR space to actually know where the grip is and where square is, okay? So the grip, awesome quality, graphite shaft, awesome quality, both pretty light. Now, the whole thing they've got here with weights inside the heads, okay, to try and make the feeling of a club head. Now, before they sent it to me, I didn't really research it and all that. I was like, hey, cool, let me have a look at this because it looks really interesting and I'm into golf. Now, they do have an option where you can purchase extra heavy weights, 65-gram weights, which if you want it to feel like a golf club and you want to have that massive a golf club, I strongly recommend doing. I've got all the 100 in there. I even added a bit of lead club head tape. It's still nowhere near enough for 65 grams. And it definitely does not swing weight anything near, at this point, without those weights, anything even close to a normal golf club, okay? However, if you compare it to a controller in your hands, which weighs nothing and has no shaft to it, or you look at any of the competitors in the market at the moment, from what I've seen, I've looked at a dozen of them, none of them have the option to go heavy, or none of them seem to be as long. I mean, it's 28 inches long, so it's still very short compared to a golf club. It's like a junior length a small junior length 7-iron, so it's still very short and light. However, we'll get to how that feels in the VR space. When you put the controller in here, also they changed this too. Some of the original earlier things, there's a different screw-on method. So the current one here with the springs, very different from the original, very nice. And also there was some concern of it flying out or something. So they actually changed to this, this newer way, apparently, of doing it now, where you slide in and it screws tight. Now, I've done some testing with this. I've played several rounds of golf with it, and it has not even moved a millimeter. So there's certainly no concern of it ever falling out. You can swing as violently as you want, never falls out. So they've got a thing now where obviously now it has a lot more mass to it. Starts to feel like a golf club. Again, if I had this 265 grammers in here, it'd feel really quite heavy, be quite nice, be short but heavy. Starts to feel a little bit. The other little thing I have, which you kind of, if you're a golfer, you become more and more aware of, and I understand now, having experienced it, why they have it where it is, and when you're lining things up in game, the controller facing this way, and underneath it's fine, and obviously as you swing it's almost tightening itself in there. It doesn't quite have the same club head balance because the controller is underneath. Yes, in their picture of swing weight, it has the club, it has this and the club underneath, but bear in mind the club is the wrong way around. When it's hanging, the club head hangs that way because you hold the club like that. In this case here, the controller is underneath. The downside to having the controller underneath, it's the same as holding a golf club the wrong way around. So here, when the golf club's the wrong way around, it doesn't want to rotate as much. It's almost counter rotation. When it's here, the mass is on top and it wants to close a lot more quickly and easily. So with the controller being underneath, it doesn't want to rotate as much as if the controller was on top. It would want to rotate. We're talking absolute millimeters here of difference, and I'm talking compared to an actual real life golf club. What would really make it completely similar? But you wouldn't want the shaft to be any longer. Trust me, when you're swinging it indoors and stuff, and your perception of space and surroundings, you wouldn't want it any longer than 28 inches. Trust me. Right. And with the extra weight, I believe it would feel really different and your release pattern would be really different. Or if they were to somehow make a weight that clips on and actually has mass on this side too. So if the weight was somehow distributed more up here, it would also help with that sensation. They also have another tool, a haptic feedback tool that has a click that you can get. Again, I would have loved to experiment with that, and maybe I'm going to do another video later on with DeadEye stuff when I have all the weights and I have the haptic feedback clicker on, where as you swing it actually would click at the bottom. If you timed it right, so it'd actually be a good training tool. It'd be like similar to the training tools we have, that they make an appropriate sound of clicking at impact or post impact. So that would be an actual training aid that would attach to this. That would even increase your feedback of click or crack as you would hit the golf shot. Not that even when you're in that VR space, honestly, there's so much audio and feedback and visual. It feels pretty lifelike anyways. So, as a tool, does it feel exactly like a golf club? No. Until you go in the VR space and it feels very different. And bear in mind, this is one of the biggest things to understand. When you're in the VR world, you can be holding this guy right here. You can be holding a controller in your right hand, and you can be convinced that when you're holding this controller in your right hand, that this is you're pulling a gun out of a holster, right? You can feel like that, and then you got left hand there. You're holding just two controllers in your mind, thinking that you're looking down the sights of like an AK or something. So you can imagine what it feels like when you're playing in the VR game and you look down and you're actually holding a golf grip. You're actually holding something with some length to it. Not that you can see that length, but you can sense it. And there is some mass. Compared to the competitors, way more mass down there. And when you have that little waggle feel, at least it starts to literally feel like you're holding a golf club. The other bonus that could happen here, they don't really have it as an option, but you could definitely get your Club Pro or a guy like me to do it for you, because it's an actual golf shaft. And it's got some ability to adjust swing weight. You could put different grips on here, man. You could put a mid-sized grip on here. You could put an oversized grip so it feels exactly like your golf. But you could get literally the grip off your club and get it installed here. Or you could put a training grip. So you could put a grip that's pre-molded and a training grip that you put on here to help you actually train your grip position while you're playing VR golf. That's what you're there to do. From my perspective, this is a way to practice and improve your golf away from the golf course at home. And I'll talk about that in the next step, my whole experience of Golf Plus and the whole VR world while trying to do this. But as a product, it seems, from what I can find anywhere, it seems to be best in market at the moment. If there's something that's better or I should have a look at, please let me know. But for what it promises that it does do it to a degree. Again, I would definitely suggest getting the extra weights if you are a golfer. If you're not a golfer, and like a lot of the YouTube videos I've watched where guys are not golfers and they're swinging and they look kind of funky while they're doing it, then by all means you don't need to go ahead and get the extra weights or the haptic feedback or any of that stuff. But if you are a keen golfer and you are aware of your own swing weights and you do like heavier clubs, or if you do want to go to a thicker grip, because this is just men's standard, you definitely want to get those extra weights because it's going to make a big difference to how it feels, okay, as far as when you're swinging. There's nothing else really I feel like I need to cover about the product itself. It's very strong, very sturdy, and certainly all the stuff I found when I looked back, I went and did a little deep dive of research. What was the biggest issues people had? The big issues was the wobbly thing, fixed. The potential come out thing, fixed. So this is, they've fixed their two biggest issues. And the swing weight thing, like I said, it is a feature. It certainly has longer and more weight and more presence than other products out there. But it's just not quite heavy enough unless you add those extra weights in there if you are a male golfer who likes heavier clubs. If you're a female golfer or a junior golfer or an absolute newbie, it doesn't really matter all that much. I would say that the 100 grams in there is just going to be enough. And certainly if you had like a small child playing, like a 5-year-old or younger, or 5-year-old or so 5 to 10-year-old, you don't have to have any weights in there. You just want something light in there so they can swing it and feel like a golf club compared to just the controller, which is fun for the kids, but it's a massive jump towards this. And then the only other thing that I would do, like I said, if I was redesigning this myself, and they said this is the best way for them for tracking and whatnot, absolutely cool if it is I'd find some way to add or move mass up here, up above, so it has a little bit more of a sensation of a club face. But in all honesty, once you get in the game and you start to figure out how everything works and the little micro adjustments you can make, it can feel pretty similar release patterns to an actual golf club, to be honest. All right, let's go to that next step of the whole review process. Let's dive on into Golf Plus. Let's talk about what that's like, what I've experienced in that, and what it's actually like using this particular tool in the VR space. How similar is it compared to like playing TrackMan golf? Because I actually had experience there where I played the front nine at Royal Port Rush in the VR space, turned off all the training aids and all the power pluses and everything, turned off everything and played, and experienced it compared to playing on TM4 in Golf Virtual 3, like the highest, fanciest virtual golf you can get compared to this. And I'll explain the experience differences between the two. Let's talk about the difference between the DeadEye and the actual using the controller. Now, once you get playing or swinging or even just holding this product, the difference between the two is, it's like night and day. As you can imagine, holding the controller, a lot of the time, especially because of the size of the controller, it's going to feel really awkward. You're going to be moving with both hands. You're not going to be able to generate much speed or force. However, if you've got a little 5-year-old, like my little 5-year-old girl, when she's doing it, she had to go with it in the VR, and she preferred the controller over the DeadEye, because DeadEye is a lot more, it feels like a golf club almost. Lengthwise, 28 inches this one. The controller's great for mucking around, sitting on the couch, almost like playing Wii golf. However, as soon as you use this, it is a completely different experience. This has a lot more mass to it, size, length, everything. So yes, when you're in the VR space, you know, you can have two controllers and feel like you're holding a gun. Or when you're doing the punching, you can hold it down, feel like you're punching, because it's still the similar size and shape. But with the golf club, because the golf club is so long and weighted, if you are a golf enthusiast or you want to use this in any way, shape or form of training, you have to go down the route of a attachment type thing, and obviously this is the longest and heaviest one out there. So it's going to create the most realism compared to certainly using a controller. Ease of use. Now this is an interesting debate. Firstly, getting used to the VR world is one thing, right? And then when I say ease of use, I'm talking about how easy is it to set up. So how easy is it to put the controller in there? How easy is it to tighten? It's been made very easy. How easy is it to put the weights in and out? It's a little bit more tricky, but still manageable. You know, this is all, the setup of setting this up is pretty basic. Easy to set up. How easy is it to swing? Well, how easy is a golf club? It is lighter than a golf club for sure. So a higher range of players can use it. If you put the extra weights on there, sure, it's probably going to have that. You need to make sure that when you're using it, you still have enough space, okay? So at home, ceilings are around 2.4 stud meters. So I can just swing it underneath that. Obviously here in the studio, my ceilings are ridiculously high, so it's never an issue. But you do need to have enough space because golf swings do take a lot more room than what you realize. Nowhere near as much space is required as playing virtual golf, where you have to have 3 meters of ball flight and all that sort of carry on. You only need the room enough to swing, but it is 5 to 6 times feel-wise like the controller you're just swinging your hands. Here you have got an instrument that you need to make sure is somewhat safe around you. When you do get into Virtual Golf 3, there is definitely adjustment options too. So when I first started using it, you know, I always weren't used to where to go and stuff, and my ball flight was all over the place and whatnot. It does have, within the settings, your ability to adjust the length, adjust the club face position, and also you can even adjust the curvature to make it feel similar to what you'd get with real golf or in a virtual golf surroundings. So ease of use is interesting. One last thing, very important, is when you are playing, you're holding the controller obviously like that, it's down in front of you. You always have to, you get used to when what A and B are, because obviously the controller is pointed towards you when you're normally holding the controller this way around. So it's quite funny, like you'll use A or B to reset the location, and then when you're wanting to point out where you want to go, you whip it around, obviously with the goggles on, and then you can point to where you want to target, and then you hold it around again. And like anything, the first few times you do that, it feels very cumbersome, especially if you're not used to the VR space. It's like, where am I going? But within half an hour of using it, you start to get naturally accustomed to all the little thingamajiggies and where to go and what to do and how to adjust things and how to aim. You learn quite quickly in that space. So ease of use, it's pretty easy. As easy as a controller? No, but way more realistic when it comes to what a golf club would feel like immersion-wise. Compared to a controller, it's not even close. So if you're definitely going to try and play virtual golf, this sort of thing here is an absolute no-brainer. Accuracy. Now, accuracy is an interesting debate. Is it as accurate as real golf? No. Is it as accurate as like playing virtual golf on TrackMan? No. Is it feel more realistic? In some ways it does feel semi-realistic because you have full immersion. But when I say accuracy, I'm talking about how accurate is it in ball flight curvature? How accurate is it in distance? How accurate is it in what the swing feels like to what it actually does? Now, again, compared to a controller, way more accurate. Compared to real golf, low point's always going to be a difficult thing to really get angle of attack because you're still swinging in the air. You're not actually hitting the ground. Distance-wise, also, once you've got the headset on, your length of swing's only going to be here because it still almost has to be able to see the ball the whole time. So your length of swing, and you don't have that much peripheral vision because you've got a headset on, right? So you have this weird sense you have got peripheral vision, but it's nothing like real life. So your length of swing's always going to be shorter, and then even if you tune down the power boost a ton to make it realistic, then you have a shorter swing, so you kind of need the power boost, which even when I had it on 0 power boost, it still gave me probably another, I wouldn't say almost 10% speed, I would dare say. So, nah, not quite 10%. Not far off though, from what it actually was. So I would call it I call it realistic in that you can set it up so it actually gives you very similar results. So you can actually use it as a training tool, I would believe, and be way better than hitting no balls at all. But accuracy-wise, it's always going to be it's more gamified for fun and entertainment than it is tuned for accuracy, if that makes sense. But that's the whole VR space. It's more tuned for fun than it is tuned for accuracy, whereas, say, a TrackMan environment is more tuned for accuracy than it is tuned for realism. Whereas, like when you're playing or hitting into a screen, you almost have tunnel vision, and we'll get into that more in a minute when I talk about Golf Plus compared to a VR immersion. But I'd say you can make it as accurate or as inaccurate as you want. You can tune it to make it very accurate if you adjust things and get them perfect with the length and the face and the alignment, and you tune the power to what you actually know you hit, not what you want to hit, then accuracy can be good. I think it's accurate enough, or it feels when I was using it at home, it's accurate enough to actually make it a useful training tool, not just an entertainment thing. And plus, because you're actually holding a club, you could pop a hack motion sensor on there while you're using it. You could put a coat hanger on there. You could use any assortment of training aids on the club that you could use to actually improve your swing technique, hitting balls on their virtual range while at home in the couch without actually hitting a physical golf ball, which could time save and money save a ton of situations. So I'd say very realistic feel. Accuracy is a little bit too user-friendly, which is good and bad. But if you make it too hard and too high a ceiling to practice, then you might limit to how many people can practice. Now, let's take a moment and talk about Golf Plus before we dive into anything else. Golf Plus. So we're into the realm of virtual golf, the virtual world. Now, when I got sent all the stuff to review it, I was very much, shall we say, a newbie to the VR space. Ready Player One, I'm like, very experienced in playing virtual golf and indoor golf and stuff, and obviously outdoor golf, pretty experienced at that. But the whole VR space, I've only done it once or twice, and it was pretty corny and whatnot. Now, it's come a long way since I last used it, and the graphics and stuff now are starting to get to that point where things are getting pretty good. Certainly when I was playing with Golf Plus, the graphics were way better than a lot of the other VR stuff. Not amazing like Virtual Golf 3, not quite at that insane realism yet, but getting there, man. It's getting there. Now the experience ways the best way I can describe VR golf compared to virtual golf, which I say hitting into a screen or sim golf, and real golf. So real golf is obviously accurate and realistic. You're there, whatever happening is happening. Sim golf, we'll call it, if you're using like a high-end unit like a TrackMan, is extraordinarily accurate, but not terribly realistic in that you're just hitting it into a screen, you don't have full immersion, you're not really aware of your surroundings. It's kind of tunnel vision. And then also, you're always hitting off a range mat and stuff. There's no real depth perception and whatnot. But it's accurate as hell when you're hitting with the TrackMan, because if you stand there and you hit a driver and you've only got 105 mile an hour club head speed, there is no power boost option or anything. It is what it is. You've only got what you've got. You can't magically do anything about it. Extraordinarily accurate. Realistic, like I said, tunnel vision. VR golf, completely different experience as it turns out. I'm going to give you an example of Royal Portrush. So, load it up, quick play on this. I'm going to show you a little example what it feels like. Okay, playing Royal Portrush in Golf Plus versus TrackMan's Virtual Golf 3. All right, here we are at home. Why at home? Well, this is probably the place I can see myself using DeadEye VR the most. VR golf is something you're probably going to do more at home than in a golf studio, because you don't need a golf studio when you're doing it. We're going to hop into TPS on the laptop using the old TrackMan. I'm going to show you what my Royal Portrush looked like from a Obviously I didn't hit a real shot, but I can show you in the practice mode what it looks like when you're playing Portrush, say, in VR. And you can see here on the TrackMan, now this obviously would not be, this is what the screen would look like. It's not first person, but what the screen would look like. And you can see there with TrackMan graphics, it's pretty spectacular. This is just on my laptop, this is on my gaming PCs. So that's the Portrush look there. Now in VR, you can see how it looks here. A little bit of a setting sun. I could change the daytime here in TrackMan to give it the same feel, but you have this beautiful shadows going on. But instantly when you play in the VR, what you start to notice is how different it is. Like right now, I'd be looking at a golf ball, I'm not really aware of my surroundings. I'd be looking down at the golf ball, back up at the screen at the target. Whereas here you have all these different things, you know, you have this interaction with the turf. The reason I haven't got the sound on here is I had some sweet music going on in the background, which is a lovely feature that it has. But I turned everything off when I played Portrush, up and down, look at the target, look at where I'm going, and then give it a whack. And then you see your ball flight, right? Pretty cool. You have the club there still in your peripheral. Obviously TrackMan, you hit it into the screen and it flies in front of you after you've hit it. With the DeadEye VR, you have all the club data of what just happened. Not inaccurate, actually surprisingly accurate for what it is. Obviously the club head speed number I always find is a little off. Just gives you too much. And then the second shot here, you can see how you can, when you're in that space, you can really feel when you're looking up at the target. When I look back to my left, do it. I'm looking back at the town. You can suddenly see the town, like, wow, I actually feel like I'm there. When you look up at the target, it actually feels like it's up above you. You can see how this also looks uphill, but it's a very different feel from the two. Obviously the graphics you can see are a little bit different, but the graphics in Golf Plus are not that scrappy at all. Go ahead and hit the shot. And here you can start to see some differences, right? So there you have the picture in front of you in the TrackMan. You can feel like you can see it's kind of uphill, but when you hear in the VR, you can really have this kind of three-dimensional feel to it, which is really cool. The day we one day get to augmented reality, when you've got goggles or glasses on and you're looking through an actual ball and you're hitting it with an actual club into a screen that has the VR space around you. I don't know, man, will the real thing actually have a chance compared to that experience? But obviously here, when I'm standing in VR there, TrackMan, I look up mid part of the screen. The screen's 3 meters away. This bunker is only a meter away, right? 2 meters away. But visually the target's away, whereas here in VR, it's right here. Like you feel like the bunker's like right here and you're looking up at the sky and you're opening the face. And I found the short game shots and the lob weed shots so far actually not too bizarrely unrealistic, but it's kind of fun to watch in reality because you start to see how much the player looks at the head, the target, and then you splash it on out, up onto the green, and then we'll have a look at what the green looked like. Cool. Excellent. So here, this would be what you'd experience with the TrackMan. You'd get in there, you'd see the lines, it gives you that this is aimed putting on, you can see the township in the background. But you're not really aware of where you are around you, very focused on what you're about to do, what's in front of you. Whereas when you're here in this VR world, you often find yourself looking around the township. You can look at where I'm going, back down the ball, a couple of little practice strokes. Slightly different pin position. Nice. How cool. Let's have a look at a different hole, eh? Let's go to the spectacular fifth. They're out at Royal Portrush. Okay, let's see if I send it or not. A little waggle. A little look at where I'm going. You lift the club up and it shows you where your target is, because this is quite weird because you're not really sure where the target is. Booyah! Ripped it. And there's all the data. You get to see it flying down there somewhere. And obviously you could whack the trigger to the next one, and then you can look around and say, wow, look how stunning this place looks. It's quite cool, right? And there I'm having a little look around. There's a bench behind me. All these little things that are a really nice touch. This is one of those many funny moments that I've had when I've been playing virtual. Like I'll have a little practice swing, just getting a feel for my yardage. And then hit the ball backwards. Like, it's never going to happen in this scenario, like TrackMan or in real life. I just never hit the ball backwards, but here, I'm still learning the spatial awareness feature, so it's quite funny. I've hit it backwards maybe I only played like 9 holes 3-4 times. I hit backwards at least 3-4 times. It's hilarious. Obviously not if you're trying to score well. If you're playing competition, it'd be hilarious. And one start to become very careful of not hitting it backwards. But it is funny. I've literally hit it backwards a few times. Just not really aware of how close to the golf ball I am. Waggle look. I mean, here's when you can really be working on technique, your pre-shot routine, all those key things you can still work on here. Where am I aiming? Have I got a smart target? All these features are still available. Ball reacts. These are the club data of what's just happened. Very cool, right? And then back on the putting green. Kind of the sort of feeling that one gets that when if you play in VR and then you play in real life, you'll have a lot more feeling like you've already been there, the deja vu. You play TP, you play TrackMan, and then you play in real life, you almost know your club numbers way better. You can, like I said, I feel like the whole experience is this feels way more real, but it's always going to be challenging to have accuracy because you're simply not actually striking a real golf ball. You don't actually have low point control issues, which makes it way easier and way more accessible to everyone to enjoy and have fun. You can still set it up in a way that it is somewhat accurate and somewhat challenging to help you improve at golf, which is extremely helpful. And I'm definitely going to muck around with it and play with it a ton at home just to keep me sharp. If this is my 5-10 minutes a day of practice I do, it's kind of fun. You end up probably doing 20 minutes, half an hour because you have music going and you have a great time doing it. I can still practice my pre-shot routine. I can still practice my smart targets. Okay, I can do all that. Obviously, if I've got the bang for the buck and I've got the space to do it, a big fancy TrackMan setup is going to give me way more accuracy. Not as immersive once more, because it's a 2D flat screen out in front of me. Yes, it's a 3D image, but you know, it's over there. Obviously, the TrackMan numbers are super accurate. When I'm hitting down on it, when I'm hitting up on it, toe, heel, whatever, everything's captured from this unit, and whatever you're actually doing is what you're actually doing. So you've got that extreme accuracy, becoming unbelievably realistic, and no doubt one day if they ever dive into augmented reality glasses or something where you're hitting a ball and whatnot, it's going to be unbelievable, still a ways away. This is a wonderful, fun tool to experience golf, and definitely having a stick like this makes the whole realism factor feel way more, and it's way more accurate obviously with this than it is just with the controller, because the controller you're only doing this and that. Alright, so that's kind of what it all looks like and how it feels like. Hopefully that's kind of helpful. The one area I haven't really covered, but is a space you spend almost most of your time in, is going to be on the practice fairway. Very cool practice fairway. I'll make a little thing of that now actually. So in the practice fairway, it's stunning, it's beautiful. You've got a wonderful clubhouse behind you. Again, you can choose whatever music you want to have going. It can give you feedback too. There's a little practice mode where it gives you feedback as to your impact alignments and stuff, which is, the image isn't quite right, like the amount of shaft lean it gives you isn't quite what you'd actually have in real life. But it is giving you feedback on path and face to path in relationship to what it is going on here with that, which is super handy, and for its price point, unbelievable. Accuracy-wise, very good for its price point. And that's almost a fun place just to spend your time. If you want to have some swings, that's when you could get your hack motion going, or any other training tool, or wrist clickers, or G slots, or whatever you want to get body movements. You could be practicing your golf swing on the practice fairway, getting some kind of ball flight feedback in the comfort of your own lounge. That's pretty unbelievable, to be honest. That's the way it's going though, and it's really, really exciting. It's really opening up a lot of options to people. All right, so in conclusion, I can see some massive value for using this, both as a training tool and as an entertainment tool. If you're going to play Golf Plus just purely as entertainment, all you really need is this, especially if kids are going to be using Golf Plus. All they really need, I'm saying kids are like under 5 or whatever. I think this is probably too big for that. And also, if anyone who's new to the game, by all means, they can just use the controller just to get a hook or an experience for it. But then as soon as they want anything that's slightly more lifelike, this is a great product for that. Is it as accurate as a TrackMan? Obviously not. Is it as realistic or accurate as real life? Obviously not. But it's extremely immersive and it's a lot of fun. And I still think there is, from my little bit of golf practice I've had doing it, once you get it all set up and tuned and you get the weight right, on that, I definitely, if you're a serious golfer, I would definitely buy the extra weights and the haptic feedback. I'll definitely probably do another video on that when I get that stuff to see how much difference the extra weight has. I think that's the only thing I would do, because I play very heavy golf clubs, which I quite enjoy, so it's always felt a little bit light, but still feels realistic enough, especially when you're in the full immersion space. You still feel like you're holding a club. I mean, even a controller feels like you're holding something, but this really feels like you're holding a club. To make it absolutely the same as my clubs, it needs to be a little heavier. So obviously I'm probably a special case like in most things. But yeah, in conclusion, I really feel like it's probably something well worth doing. If you're going to try play golf in the virtual world, definitely get yourself an attachment of some kind. And clearly this is probably the one with the most length and the most weight. So it probably puts it as a forerunner of options. Now, down below, there's obviously an affiliate link down below with a nice little discount code for you guys, and you can use that and get the product cheaper. And I'm certainly going to have a lot of fun playing with it and getting my my family to experience virtual golf too, which is going to be cool, especially with getting the young one involved. I think she'll have a lot of fun. This is a great gateway with the music, the immersion, you know, the ease of use. It's right here at home. You don't have to go to a golf course or anything. It's great. I really do enjoy it and look forward to using it more. Thanks for your time. Any comments, questions or thoughts about my experience or where I think this fits into the marketplace, by all means pop it in the comments section below. I'll be more than happy to have a yarn about it here. And thanks again for your time. See you in the next one.